quiz score if you think you did poorly on that one. But you know, the check my work button, that's optional, but always add that in. It'll tell you if you're right or wrong. So Pete, I'll listen when everybody else comes.
We can.
It's like this every first week every week. It becomes
very routine, trust me. But we have problems every now and then, so. Why is it not going to
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that close tonight or last night?
I'm not exactly sure. I have to check. It depends. Usually when we finish, I open it up for exactly a week and close it. It closes exactly a week later.
Okay.
That's how it usually works, and there's sometimes exceptions to that. But that's, you know, that's my answer. You know.
Okay.
I'm not thinking totally clearly today, so it's kind of do a lot of flying around and stuff.
We just had to do solve for x, 2 addition, 2 subtraction, 2 multiplication, and 2 division.
Yes, it was very simple. It was just meant to be. It's for extra credit. It'll give you at least 5 to 10 points or something. He turned those into my box, I believe, and you know, I'll pick those up, and that way you're not just coming for nothing. I didn't want him to do what I'm doing today. In other words, I wanted to be the one because he was not. He doesn't.
The way you.
No, I don't think anybody does. Okay.
You can put it on me if you want it.
I wasn't here, Monday.
So you missed nothing then.
No.
It was an extra credit assignment worth 5 to 10 points. I mean, it is something. It could make a little difference. You know, it adds something to your quiz scores if you want to look at it that way. If you don't, most of you guys are not going to need it. The people that normally come usually make A's and B's, and usually get more A's and B's. But the ones that normally come, the ones that don't normally come, anywhere from C to F. You know. Some of them still do well though. That's something I've never seen. The whole point, I didn't want him to. I don't know how he would have presented it. Even if I could, I would have told him what I do.
He never uses that website. I don't know if he ever teaches that class. So I didn't want to do that. But I can promise you the button is going to be there this time.
It is there.
It's there.
Okay.
Yes, I had somebody come in today and I got to double check.
So, did you notice the menus and stuff since last semester, like I was telling them, have changed. They did it again. You know, it shouldn't be that confusing to me, but when I'm flying all over the country and making settings and trying to, you know, a million emails to answer, the last thing I need is to have to refigure out, or figure out again how everything is set up and which menu contains what, and what are the. It's basically the same settings. It's just they moved them all around. I guess they thought that was more efficient. I don't know. So I never noticed the check my work button wasn't a default. I had to go in and do it myself.
You can't see what a student is. The students are doing.
So someone just has to send me an email. If I'd have gotten one email, I didn't get one single email, so I didn't know.
I sent you two.
Until
We figured I talked to you Monday.
You sent an email on Monday.
She did.
I sent the email on Monday, yeah.
We were at the
But
math
they
lab.
wouldn't have known because it was their
Yeah, and I
first
changed it
time in.
Monday or Monday night or something.
Yeah, they wouldn't have known what it was supposed to be doing because they'd never been in before.
What I told them was I'll drop the lowest quiz. But, I mean, of course, if you think you did poorly,
I think you could have done it without the check my work, to be honest. That's just my opinion.
I made silly, goofy mistakes that I was like, oh.
The class average right now is 95%. So I'm probably just wasting my breath. You know, I'm sure most people are like, well, I did well on it. You can see it closes today, of course. Chapter 5 will be open as soon as we get out here. I'll do it from here, so you can get on there and take that when you want. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at it. This is where you want to take notes. I don't have my water with me. Is there a fountain outside? Right outside?
Should be in the bathroom.
I need a drink.
I have a piece
I
of
always bring
gum.
my water, but today things have just been rushed.
I don't have the cooties.
That's okay. No, I would never do that.
No.
And that's nothing personal. Because I might give you something.
There's a water fountain at the end of this
Have a
hallway
piece of
by
gum.
the zoology
I
class.
don't chew gum. You will?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me give you that. Thanks. I appreciate it. Just talking, you know,
Yeah.
No, it's right here.
I have to. I just gotta have it in every class. You want one too?
No, okay,
You sure?
yeah. I don't know
It
how
can't be
much,
more than that.
shouldn't be. I know there's a water.
I know they're pricey, but. Okay, so anyway, so if you were here that day on Monday, that's what we did, the extra credit assignment. If you weren't here, you didn't miss any academic stuff. Today is an important day. And remember, when you're taking notes as we go through this, number one is going to be number one on your quiz. The reason I'm saying that is because as I go through this, I might delete some of the questions. That does happen every now and then. So you always want to write the number of the problem whenever you're taking notes.
Could you move your back, please?
Huh?
Could you move your back?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Is it that high?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the first one. And I will take roll. Usually I do that before class, but I'm just ready to get this done. And somebody remind me at the end if I forget. Okay. So if I come to an example, again, like I just said, if I come to an example and there's a button on here, or just put it this way, I'll be deleting it later, not right in front of you. But this will make sense when you see what I mean. I shouldn't have to do it. In other words, I copy what happened last semester over into this course. But I don't know if that has changed. So sometimes if it says you have 15 questions at the top, I might take out 3 of those. But some of those are, I don't know how to describe it in a nice way, just not overly wordy, but worded a little tricky, you know, some of the word problems. Or it might be something you don't really have to know. That doesn't happen that often, though, okay? This is a very simple problem. Okay, you can see the explanation. When you're taking notes, this is what you want to concentrate on, but while you're writing it, most of us can multitask, hopefully, because there's no way I can just say, okay, take notes, I'll sit here and shut up for 5 minutes, and then explain it. We have to do it together. Okay, so if you have any questions, you ask, just, you know, let me know you have a question as we're going through it. What I will do is explain the steps and why you do what you have to do. Why you know, like in this case, Q minus 160 equals 950. We know that, we always go back to the rules. Thank you a lot. We always go back to the rules. And the rule was what? If you're trying to isolate the variable Q, and you have anything with a minus sign in front of it, you want to do the what always?
Opposite. Got it.
The opposite.
Got it.
You want to add the same number. You want to do the opposite. So for addition, it's paired up with what? It's paired up with subtraction.
Subtraction.
What about multiplication? Division. Okay? So if it's division, what are you going to use? Multiplication. All right, so it's very simple. I know. For some of you, this is still... Is anybody like lost in this? You know, now some of the problems you're going to see are not this simple. they'll give you, you have the word problems also. Right now, you're not looking at one.
And you'll want to write down the explanations.
Yeah, I keep telling them that. Yeah. In other words, don't write this part, okay? This is what you really want because this has the steps. Now, if they're missing a step, I will tell you or I'll write on the board. You have to add this in because sometimes they will leave out. It's not incorrect to do that, but they will just jump from step 1 to step 3, for instance. Anyway, finishing this off. We do the opposite. These cancel out, and they equal what? 0. You're left with the variable on the left-hand side. Now, on the right-hand side, what is the rule? What is the rule?
What you do to the left side, you have to do to the right.
Whatever you do to the left, you have to do to the right. Because we talked about an equation, it has to stay in balance, right? Okay. So what did we do? We added 160 to the other side. Okay. Very simple problem. Any questions?
How do you get
Okay.
plus or minus 1% on top?
Go on.
How do you get it plus or minus 1% in the answer?
Oh, good question, because you haven't seen this. Well, it's kind of new to you. And you're going to notice this when I'm going over it, but you won't see this whenever you're doing it. What this means is there's a tolerance, supposed to be a tolerance level, that'll work in your favor. In other words, if you're within plus or minus 1% of the answer, it will accept it as correct. Does that make sense? If you're within plus or minus 1% of the answer, it should accept it as correct. It should. Now, here's something you want to keep in mind. If you really think you have the right answer, we only live for so long, right? Like I said before. You don't want to waste a half an hour doing it over and over. If you really think you know you have the right answer, copy and paste it. It just takes a second. Shoot me an email. I can go in and take a look. Because there was a case with yours, as a matter of fact. And it was exactly the right answer. Yours was okay. And when I looked at hers, it gave you credit, but it didn't give her credit. Or it gave everybody else credit, too. I'm assuming most of you. Was it 15 cents? Was that what it was? Or $15? That outstanding check, whatever number?
Well, on that problem, it was separated. I know which one you're talking about. They had a service charge, but then they had two others that were something else, and you had to add them together. But when you put the scroll down, you couldn't separate them because there wasn't two boxes. Like one was a service charge.
That's a different problem, probably.
Oh, okay.
It is, definitely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because
I remember that.
This was something else. But here's my point anyway. Email me. If you think you're right, don't spend more than 5 minutes. I mean, if it's a very short problem and it just takes you a few minutes and you've done it 3 or 4 times, you can see, well, I'm right.
It's not just your questions. I got other classes that are a must too.
Yeah, well, and honestly, this website is more of an advantage than anything. It's worth the little problems that you run into every now and then. A typical student will have to maybe email me twice a semester. I wouldn't, that's not too bad. So.
What I want to know, if you do get the problem wrong and you want to redo it, how you do that?
Okay, good question. And I'm not to interrupt what we're doing here, but you have to know this, and I should have said this first. It's my fault, I forgot. On the next quiz, you're going to notice when you go from problem 1 to problem 2. On the last quiz, let me ask you, after you finish problem 1, did it show you the correct answer and give you a score and everything?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No, not the
It would not let you go back to problem 1? That's what I'm asking.
It let you go back and review it, but it would not let you go back.
Okay, now it'll let you go back.
Okay.
It should let you go back.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying?
I had to hit submit.
Let me finish though, huh?
You
And
have
I'll
to
get
hit
right back to
submit.
you. Let me finish and I can answer your questions. Before I lose what I'm trying to say here. Because I had to relearn this in the last couple of days from last semester. And I had to do the same thing last semester from the previous semester, if that makes sense. They're like constantly trying to improve their, and I guess maybe there's improvements, but it's confusing at first, and you have to learn it. Anyway, so here's the thing. You can go back to your problems now, and it won't make you start fresh, or right now it won't allow you to redo it, right? But here's the thing. It won't give you a score or any feedback until you submit. Did you hear that? So it won't give you a score or feedback on any of your problems. It'll give you feedback on all of them after you hit submit. Right now, it was giving you feedback right afterwards. And then it wouldn't let you go back and fix it. Now that's something new. I believe there's something in there that's new. If I'm not wrong, I don't remember that last semester. That wasn't a feature. In other words, that's new. That's new. But the way they have it worded on the website, they don't tell you. It doesn't say, warning, the student cannot go back and work the next problem. So they left that out, you know. But anyway, we have that figured out. So it should be smooth sailing from now on. Okay? Anyway,
Well,
so
we were saying though is, one, I couldn't go to the next problem. Two, I couldn't even check that problem I just did unless I submitted it. Then
now you
it
can.
showed me.
You will now. The check my, if you didn't hear me earlier, the check my work button, the green button will be available now. Lower left corner, right?
Yeah, I sent the email.
Is that where it at? I forgot where it is. One of the corners.
And it's
That
got
was
the
right
printer
next to
button.
it on mine.
The what's that?
And it's got the printer button.
I usually deselect that.
The what?
There's a reason for that. Because I don't want it. I mean, you can copy and paste an email to your friends and stuff, but I just don't want printed copies floating around. I'm sorry. So I deselect that. How did you know that?
We went to the tutor.
Oh, the tutor knows it. Okay. And that's true. There is a button for that, and you know, I mean, come on, you can't lose. You got unlimited attempts, and you have to work hard to fail. But you should learn too at the same time. You should be learning it, okay? If not relearning it. Okay, quickly, because this is a quick problem, and eventually we have some more problems, right? This is a what kind of problem? Division. So we're going to isolate the variable by using the opposite, which is multiplication. Now, they should explain it down here, of course. Why do we multiply by 7? You can imagine this as being 7 over 1, couldn't you? Because it is the reciprocal. What happens to a fraction? Whenever you multiply a fraction by its reciprocal?
It crosses, cancels out.
That's a 5, sorry. They cancel out to 1. And you're left with 1. You know this already, right? I'll write it next time, sorry. But do you see what I'm saying? So that's why we multiplied by the reciprocal. So if you multiplied it by 1/7, that might be a common mistake. You would not get the same answer. It's 7 over 1. Or you could say 7. Okay? So when we do that, what do we end up with? Whenever we do that, the 7's cancel out, you're left with P on the left-hand side, and then whenever you do to the left, you do to the right. So if you multiply by 7 over here, you multiply by 7 over here. 85 times 7 is 595. You see how we get that? Ready for another one? You gotta let me know if I'm going too fast. Like I told you, you have to be a little efficient in your note taking. You can't be, usually if it's a word problem, like this one, that's easy, but if it's a word problem, you can't be copying the words. You're gonna get the same words, you know, so. You ready? Now we're on problem number 3. Remember, write the number of the problem in your notes. Why is that important? Because when you have your notes next to you and you're doing your quiz, which you probably have your notes next to you, right? You can look at the notes and look at the problem. Okay, so what do we have here? We have parentheses. What does that mean?
Multiplication.
Well, what does it mean we have parentheses? We have to distribute the 22, distribute, right, to the A, and also distribute it to the 20. We have to multiply it by both terms, okay, in that expression. So 22 times A is 22A. 22 times 20 is negative 440. Now why is it negative? Because we have a positive times a negative. And what is the rule? For division and multiplication,
Negative 10.
If the signs are unlike, it's always a negative. What if it's addition and subtraction? What determines if it's positive or negative? Whatever is the larger number of the two. That's the sign that you use, right? Okay, moving right along. It's getting simpler now. So here we are at this step. Why do we add 440 to both sides? Because we want to cancel out the 440 here. You'll notice as we go on through the same or similar problems, I may be a little bit more efficient as far as for explaining it. I don't want to bore you to death, you know. But let me know if you have a question. So we're going to cancel out here. We're left with what? Just the variable, but also the variable times a coefficient, 22. So we're not done isolating that variable yet, right? On this side, we do the same thing and add 440. We get 638. Now, over here at this step, it's a multiplication problem, right? We solve or we isolate the variable by doing the opposite, which is division. These cancel out. You're left with the variable. On the other side, you have to do the same thing as the left-hand side. So you divide by 22. And you get 638 divided by 22 is 29. Plug it in. There's also a new feature. I'll get your feedback next time. There's a new feature in this website that might be good. I think it was there before. I don't remember. I'm not sure. Just can't remember. But it's called Hint. Did you have that last time? Does anybody have a hint button or something? I had to go and check it off. Huh?
So, I just got off the front end and I think I saw it there.
You know why? Because I had changed. Well, never mind. Just pretend you didn't say that. I went in and changed chapter 4. I mean, at some point, from Monday or Tuesday, I went in and made some changes. So that's why I'm saying I'm dropping your lowest score. If you bombed it because you couldn't check your work, and if somebody else got to check their work who did it late, you know, who did it like in the last day, nothing wrong with that, but not at all. I used to leave it open for 2 weeks. Now it's open for 1. So I used to leave it open all semester. So I don't know what's going to be next, 3 days. Any questions on this one?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Because I know the A is equals 29, but then you have 29, then you have the plus sign minus out 1%.
Oh, yes. Okay, you came in right after I explained your problem. Let me explain it again. The plus or minus 1% you will not see on your screen. It is a setting I have. It's the tolerance setting. If your answer is plus or minus 1% within the correct answer, it should accept it. And obviously, with your bad luck, it did not. Because you had the exact right answer. I looked at it twice, 2 times. I'm like, it marked it wrong. So again, it's more of an advantage than just a disadvantage. You just have to put up, each of you, maybe 2 or 3 times. You might have to email me. So out of 100 and something problems or whatever, that's not so bad. Okay, any more? Okay, no word problems yet. I think they're coming up though. We have to set them up. Okay, so right here we have 2 operations. What are they? Addition and subtraction. Now, when we combine terms, what does that mean?
You combine
Or simplify
like
is a better word. I'm sorry?
combine like terms.
Combine like terms, but in this case, it's actually simplification is a better word. Simplify the terms. So we can add and subtract here, right? And we come out with what? A positive 88. You take 116 minus 28, right? And you get 88. In other words, that's the first thing you would do. Now the second thing you would do is obviously what? Here we are, the first step. We want to get rid of this 88. So we subtract from both sides. These cancel out. We're left with the variable. And on this side, you're left with 174. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll just keep going. Trust me, it does get challenging in some chapters. Some people hate to get bored. And I know there's probably not many of you, but some of you like it. Or It just, everyone's different, so. Okay. We have parentheses again, so it's like the previous problem, right? This is number 5. We had one before, and we have to distribute the 22 to both terms in parentheses. So we get 23 times C, and then we get 23 times negative 67. Now it's a negative times a positive, so we have a negative sign. 1,541. Okay, we got to start isolating the variable. Subtract, or excuse me, add 1541 to both sides. It cancels out here to 0. You're left with 23C. Over here, we add these two together, and we get 23,391. Notice I purposely leave out the word thousand and stuff, not because I want to sound unintelligent, because I'm trying to save time. Keep that in mind. Over here, we're at this step. We have to isolate this. This is a multiplication problem. So we're going to divide, right? To get rid of it. We're going to divide both sides by 23. See? So it isolates over here, and we get C. And then 23,391 divided by 23 is 1,017. Any questions yet? So I'll look around, and when I see people writing, usually I'll try to wait a minute. That's what I'm doing. So just so you'll know. I can only wait so long, but I'll wait if I see a lot of people writing. We usually have more than enough time. Usually. Okay, you ready for another one? Mm-hmm. All right, now we have something more challenging. Okay, so if you recall, didn't we look at something similar in the PowerPoint? I believe so.
We didn't look at the PowerPoint.
We haven't even got over
We haven't
that
even got
yet.
chapter 5 yet.
Really?
Yeah,
Forget
that's
about
why I
the
was wondering why you're
Forget
going
about
to
the
test.
PowerPoint. Just forget about it. Okay.
Okay.
But stop me if you have any questions. I didn't even realize that. Trust me. I guess my mind's on vacation, whatever.
That's why I was
like,
wondering.
how you
I could have sworn I did the PowerPoint here for chapter 5.
No.
No.
Just finished chapter 4.
No.
No,
We
all
would've
we
done
did
it
was that,
Monday,
and that was it.
We would have
I
done it
didn't
Monday.
realize that till just now. All right.
3.6, yeah.
The PowerPoint is like a prep, but if you guys are all up to speed on this, then you really don't need it. Does anybody feel like they're deficient in what I'm talking about here? Solving for the unknown. I mean, that's the whole concept. You want to isolate the variable. I could write this on the board, you could write it down. There's steps. In every problem, you have to isolate any variables. The variables are the letters, right? So you have to get them by themselves. You have to get it by itself. And to do that, we go through a certain amount of steps. It depends upon the problem. Anytime we see addition, like I said earlier, we use subtraction to cancel out numbers. Anytime we see multiplication, we use division. We use the opposite to cancel out numbers and isolate the variable. And by the time you isolate that variable, then you have your answer on the right-hand side of the equal sign. That's basically all it is. It's very simple algebra. Usually I would do the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
That's a first. I've never forgotten to do. For some reason, in my mind, I did it, you know.
Well,
So-
you would have probably done it Monday.
I
so.
could have let him do that. I didn't want him to do this. So I wish I'd have known that. Huh? You were in and out in 15 minutes? 2 minutes? Okay, let's go over this. All right. So, that is so strange. God, it must have been a dream. All right. So, I'll be thinking about this later. In 1955, there's an antique car that cost $36.68. That was in 1955. Now today, its value is obviously increased. That is if it's in excellent condition. Now now keep this in mind, let's start right here. If it's in excellent condition, which is 1 3/4 times as much as a car in very nice condition. Immediately when you see that, there's a relationship there, okay? And that's when we get to this. Because a car in very nice condition would be the variable, which V, it could be any letter, it doesn't matter. V for very, I suppose, right? And then we multiply it times 1 3/4. Why? Because if it's in excellent condition, it is worth 1 3/4 times V. Now, who could tell me, what could you substitute here to make this easier? 1.75, thank you. Put that in your notes if you choose to. You should. 1.75. Why? Because 0.75 is the same thing as 3/4. Why does that make it easier? Because now you don't have to deal with the fraction if you don't like fractions. Or you could choose to do it the fraction way. That's how I would do it. 1.75 times V. Okay? But if you use the fraction, what do? We have this number. Now look, we divide by the same mixed number. By the same mixed number. Now we have to do it on the other side too. This is where it causes a problem for some students. This is why you want to use 1.75. Because when you get here, you got to do 62,125 divided by 1 3/4. You can punch that in your calculator and get it, I'm sure. But why not just punch in 1.75? Easier. Okay, so what is our final answer here? 35,500.
Very nice condition.
Huh? I have no idea. It's an antique. Now, some problems are very detailed, like too detailed.
Yeah.
And I like skip the words, like in the banking, I'll skip some of the words. It's just extra information, you know. But they're creating a scenario. That's what they're doing. Sometimes they take it too far. They say like this and this website and blah blah blah. But anyway, it's an antique car. So. Any other questions? No? Okay. What's going on here? They show you how to set it up. Here's where the explanation starts, of course. Now we have two people. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name sometimes. So, sell homes for Erie Realty. Over the past 6 months, they sold 886 homes. They sold 886 homes. Right there, there's a key or a clue. What is it? It's the total that they sold. And that's why, if you see down here an explanation, it's the total. See the first step here? This is where they're setting it up. And this is where the actual problem, like if you were writing on paper, you would probably start right here. Or some people might start here, I don't know. I would start here. So the total of both of them is 868. Okay? Now Nanda and Lane, the two different people who sold homes. What is that noise? Nanda sold 13 times as many homes as Lane. Right there, you see the word times. What does that tell you about hints? What kind of hints? Huh? Someone said multiplication.
Multiplication, yeah.
What's funny?
I said Lane sucks.
Oh, Lane sucks, yeah. Lane's lame at what he does. So anyway, what I'm trying to do here is show you keywords. Now, I'll do this in other chapters too. So when you're reading through the problem and you have those keywords in your notes, it makes it a lot easier, okay? So a lot of you know this already, but times is multiplication, okay? What do we have here? 13 times H. Now they chose H as the variable. It can be any number. H stands for what? Homes? Okay, trying to make it simple. So we use 13H plus H. Where did we get the plus H from? Look how it's set up here. Because we know Nanda sold 13 times as many as Lane, right? So Lane is going to equal what coefficient? 1. Do we have to write the 1 in? No. It's represented by just H, or 1H. Now, how do we combine like terms? We simply add them. Why are they like? They have the same variable. Why are you guys so tired? Okay, every class is different. We add these together, they're like terms. We get 14h equals 868. Just imagine that, that's the next step. Now we're going to divide by the 14. Why is that? Because we want to isolate the variable h. So we do it to both sides. H is isolated, finally, and we get 62. Now somebody tell me, oops, someone tell me, we got 62 for Lane. How do we get Nanda's? We take h equals 62 and plug it into where? 13. 13 times 62. Do you see that?
Yep.
13 times 62. If h equals 62, then here's h. We have to plug in the word or the number 62. Does that make sense? You see how they don't show you that here? They showed you how to get Lane. They showed you Nanda also, but they didn't get that extra little step in there. Like the one more little thing. Okay, anyway. Any questions on this one? We're about halfway through. Weeks go by quickly.
They got the wrong answer.
Don't say that. What happened?
Because you take 62 times 13 and it comes to 816.
Are you serious? Somebody punched in the calculator. Not that I disagree with you, but I just want to verify. And that's possible.
62.
What did you get?
806.
I got 816. What did I do wrong?
You got 806. Anybody else? Going once? Okay, so I don't know what happened. Now, I'm glad she brought that up, though, because here's something to remember. The calculators are different. Calculators are different. If your calculator is not set up a certain way, there might be some problems where it's going to make a difference.
Well, this is Excel.
So, huh?
This is Excel.
That's Excel, so it doesn't matter.
Oh.
I mean, it's what's superior. Yeah.
Do that to the accounting department.
What's that? What are you talking about?
So you have 868 subtract 62.
Oh, you can check it that way. Yeah, I guess you can check it by doing that. I don't go over the checks too much. I just concentrate on the explanation.
I can't change my settings to this. Every time I do a fraction, it says keep the interested.
Honestly, I don't, because every calculator is different, but I can tell you how to figure it out. It just takes about 10 minutes. Go to Texas Instruments, whatever company makes it, go to their website, call customer service. You tell them what calculator model you got. Well, they'll tell you how to do it. So, that's the only way to do it. Okay, you ready for the next one?
My numbers are coming in blurry, and then you have it zoomed in.
Okay, the reason I'm looking at this one more closely because they throw in a little another ingredient here. It's not just like the other one we just did. It might look like it is, but it's not exactly.
You see where the plus is at?
Okay, there's one little extra thing here. Let's look at the words first, of course. We have Dot, who sells t-shirts for $18. Keep that in mind, we're going to use that 18. She sells shorts for $20. We're going to use that 20. Now, shorts and shirts are two different products, right? But in this case, in this problem, we're going to use S. In other words, they're going to be represented by the same variable. Even though they're two different products, they're going to be represented by the same variable. Why is that? Because of the format of the problem. Because, and I'll read through this again, but because of the way it's formatted, people bought 8 times as many t-shirts as shorts. Does that make sense? That's why we can use S to stand for both of them, the same variable. If it weren't worded that way, you know, there's other problems in algebra where you have to use different variables, like in word problems. Well, it's never the case in here. You will never have, let me say it again, you'll never have different variables in any problem. You won't have an A and a B, you know, an X and a Z. It's always the same one. Okay, so now we know that. In April, total sales are 85.28. What does that tell us, the total? That means the equal sign, right? That's what both of them equal. Down here, at the first step, see? Now, it says people bought 8 times as many t-shirts as shorts. Now it's time to take a look at this area here. Don't worry about the answer. I mean, of course you want to write it down, I suppose. But, you know, look at this too. We know they sold 8 times as many t-shirts as shorts. Look how it's set up. 8S, and again, shorts has a coefficient of 1. So it's 1S. You don't write the 1 in, you just write the S. We add, what do we do here? We have 8S. Now it says times 18. Or excuse me, the price is 18. Excuse me, the price is 18. So what do you imagine right here? A multiplication sign.
8 times 18?
Yes. So if you're writing in your notes, you'd want to write that in there, a multiplication sign. That's how we got the 144, multiplication. Same thing, what happened here? S
times 20 is
20.
20 is
20.
20.
Or S times 20,
Yeah.
20 times S. So you see why it's multiplication? You see? There's a multiplication sign right here between both. You're going to have another problem like this. Okay, so it's good to know what's going on. They leave those little things out. So anyway, here's the total. We know that. Here is step 1 in the explanation. All right. So do you see where we got the 144S? In the first line. And the 20S we got from the second line. And of course the total is 85.28. Now it's real simple, okay? So the hardest part in these kinds of problems is what? Setting it up.
Yeah.
Once you get it set up, when I was a student, I hated it. I didn't really care for word problems too much because they made you work, you know. I mean, I like to think, don't get me wrong, but there was something about. I took business math, and honestly, I didn't do too well at it, even though I'm really good at math. Something about just being overloaded with word problems. The teacher probably gave too many problems. I think that's what it was.
I hate word problems.
We're gonna have a bunch in here.
The easy thing for me is just trying to get them set up after
Well, the thing I'm doing is trying to simplify it to where you can sift through the words and just grab what you need.
Oh,
you
yeah. No, this is simple, but more difficult ones.
Okay, good. Well, here's the first step. We're done with the first step, okay? We're at the second step. We're at the second step. How do we get 164S? We combine these two, and how can we do that? Because they are?
You add them together and they're like terms.
Because they're like terms. Right, they're like terms. They both have the same variable, don't they? They both have S. If one was a T, we could not add them together, right? But they have the same variable as in every problem. You get 164S. You add them together. Now we want to isolate that S, so we divide both sides by what? We want this to cancel out to 0, or to 1, excuse me, not 0. And then we divide the other side by 164 also. Simple. Now we're not done yet though. We're not done yet. This gives us the answer for what?
For the shirt.
Shorts.
Shorts. Hey, look at what's going on here. This gives us the answer for the shorts.
So now you got to take 8 times 52 to get
8
for the
times
t-shirt.
52 to get 416 for the t-shirts. Right. 8 times 52, 52, excuse me, to get 416 for the t-shirts. So what we're doing is we're trying to figure out what does the variable equal with a coefficient of 1, and then taking that answer and plugging it into the other one, you know, the other product, whatever. Any more questions or any questions?
How would you check
Huh?
how would you check the answer on that one?
I don't worry about the checks, really.
Oh, okay.
I don't even think about it. Because you see, you're catching me off guard, honestly, because before class, if I were worried about that, I'd prepare for it. I don't.
Oh,
I just want to get through this. I'm just being totally honest.
okay.
I don't want to appear stupid, but I don't concentrate on checks. I know my answer's right. I'm that confident. I'm that cocky. So when I was in school, I didn't worry about the checks. I really did not as a student. So as a teacher, I don't really concentrate on that. You know, if you want to look into that, they're all in your book. You have them in the notes in the PowerPoint sometimes. I just skip right over. You'll have them up here sometimes. Now I could figure that out. I'm not going to stand here and do and say something wrong. So anyway, no big deal. You're always welcome to check them. Now, there was no questions about this one, right? Is there another one like this? Is everybody finished taking notes? We have plenty of time. Okay. Do you recognize this problem? Because it's just like the last one. Notice it? They have two different products. What are the two different products?
T-shirts and shorts.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a different problem, different numbers. So it's set up exactly the same way. It's even the same product. We have Dot, who sells 270 shirts, at a price of $4 a piece, right? And she sells shorts at a price of $6 a piece. The total, what does that mean again? It means equals, right?
Right.
See, you see the word total in the word problem? And you note that at the bottom, there's your, you go ahead and write in the equal sign and put in the total. If I were setting this up like from a word problem, if I'm sitting there looking at it and reading it and setting it up, that's what I would do. I'd write that in first, okay? And I'd go back and I'd read it again after I've read it once, just to make sure. Now, we can use the same variable for t-shirts and shorts. And what did they use here? Again, an S, right? So it's set up just like the last one. 270 t-shirts, okay? And over here, it's at a price of $4. So we multiply 4 times 270, but what's happening here? Is there something different here? Or is it a mistake on the problem? I think it might be a mistake.
They didn't find, they told you that you had to.
I can see that now, yeah. Okay, so let me make sure you understand what's going on here. I know you're taking notes. Okay, it says Dot sells 270 t-shirts at a price of $4 and shorts at a price of $6. And here's the total. It does not say anything about she sold so many more t-shirts than shorts or anything like that. So there should be no, this was not there last semester. I don't know what happened. Okay? So the bottom line is what? This is incorrect to some extent. Right? What I would do is the other problem you have, the previous one, follow that same format for this one.
Yes.
And you'll be fine.
Format is number 8.
It's set up the same way, it's just different numbers.
So use that as number 8?
That is number 9.
And
This
use
one.
the same form as number 8?
Yes. You understand that?
Yeah, that's
Okay. Yeah, I had to look at it twice just to make sure. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so, and that doesn't usually happen with the quizzes. That's like a first. I mean, in this chapter, we've never had a problem. So they're getting in there and they're tweaking things every semester. Their engineers are in there.
They're making us all work.
Doing stuff and you know, like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just, oh well. So there's no use in writing all that stuff. Because I think I can see some people are writing, but I think it's going to be confusing if you try to follow this. You just follow the format you did for the previous problem. Okay?
That's what I did.
And you'll be fine. Okay. Now, they did it correctly. Because I can see the key word there already, and the word is difference. which means we use subtraction.
Yep.
That's what they were supposed to do in the previous one. Okay? Let's go through the words. We have Bill's roast beef, who sells 4 times as many, 4 times. There's your multiplication. What do we have here in the first step? 4 times S. What does S equal? Sandwich? The variable? 4 times as many as Pete, his buddy. Now it says the difference between their sales. The difference. What's next? Subtraction. Is 234. Is means equals. Bam, it's set up. Now it's easy to do. Isolate the variable. You're getting tired of hearing me saying the same things, I know. We have some chapters, what is it, what chapter was that one? Some interest or something. Like almost all the problems are the same.
Balance sheet.
It was
Financials.
It was something. I don't know. But let's go ahead and proceed with this. Okay, here's how it's set up. We have Bill, we have Pete. All right, of course, here's your answer, but the explanation starts here. Here's Bill and Pete. Bill sold 4 times as many as Pete. We use the same variable. Again, no problems. You're going to have 2 different variables. It's always the same. So here's the relationship: 4S minus S. Now it's written vertically here. All they did over here was they flipped it to where it's horizontal. That's it. 4 minus S. Now we want to isolate the variable. First we have to combine like terms, right? So 4S minus 1S is 3S equals 234. Very simply do what finally? Divide both sides by 3. You isolate the variable S, and now you get the answer for Pete. All you have is Pete right now. So how do we get Bill? We plug in 78 for S. 4 times 78. 4 times 78 for Bill. He's selling a lot more than Pete. So
Pete is a son.
either that, or maybe Pete's in a bad area, or which one was it again? Yeah, Pete's in a bad area.
Maybe Bill just has better roast beef.
Yeah, maybe it's the product.
Yeah.
You know, that could very well happen. You have Quiznos, you have Subway. Some people go to one or the other. Or neither.
What do we have? I didn't do it.
Okay. Do you see how this is set up? Now, you should have another one like this. If you don't, it's because the previous one was supposed to be that way and they screwed it up. I just realized something. What I'm going to have to do is I might have to delete that question. Okay, so after this class, when I go back to my office, I'm going to go through it, and because it might cause problems with your answer. In other words, you know what I'm trying to say? It's going to want you to solve it the way it was on here in the explanation.
Yeah, and that's
But it's
not
wrong.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you'll just
what you're going to see, let me just finish. What you're going to see is you're going to see a little gray bar that says this question has been disqualified by instructor or something like that. Don't let it freak you out. It's nothing. Just hit next and go to the next one. That's why the number's important to write your notes. Because sometimes I skip. Okay? Like this time. I'm more than likely going to take that out. Okay? The more I think about it, because I don't want to get 25 emails from people. My answer is right. I worked it right, and it's telling me it's wrong. But any questions about this one? Okay. Only about 10 minutes left, or less. Okay. I always thought this was kind of a weird problem because if you read it, look at the way it reads. It says the count of discouraged unemployed workers rose to 504,700, which is 8 3/4 times as many as in the previous year. Okay, now sometimes, I haven't mentioned this yet, I just realized that. Sometimes it's useful to look at the gray box first, because what does that tell you? This is what you're finding, the final result, what you're looking for, before you read the word problem. That helps some people. Because you look at this and you know you're looking for you can ignore the word discouraged, okay? That's just kind of extra stuff in there. It should just say unemployed workers. I mean, of course, are any of them encouraged? Well, probably so. There might be some. But anyway, just ignore that word. So you might want to do that. Now back to the problem. It says it rose, okay, to 8 3/4 times as many. Look at the first step down here. Well, we could actually start here. D stands for discouraged, I'm assuming. We could use any letter we want. Now, why is it a multiplication problem? Because we have the word times. It's a really simple problem. But there's something you should do here. What do you
Change that
think?
to a decimal.
Change the 3/4 to a decimal, which is what? Again, 0.75. That's what I would do. Change it to 0.75. So you're going to get 8.75 times the variable D equals 504, 7,000. Everybody see how we got that? Now here's the first step. So if you imagine it with points, well, you could do it this way. If we had 8.75 times D, what would we do? We would divide both sides by 8.75. And at the end here on your calculator, you'd punch in 504,700 divided by, not 8 3/4, but 8.75. Or you can do the fractions if you want. Either way, you should get it. And there's your answer. Any questions on this type? No? A few more. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Okay, you're not going to have this one. I remember this one every semester. Just don't worry about it. Okay, so in your notes, you're not going to write down 12. If you did, make it a 3. Make the 2 a 3. Well, let's see what the next one looks like.
Number 12 is number 3?
Well, we'll find out which one's coming next. Usually I take out 2 or 3 problems. And so far, there's 2 of them gone. It didn't transfer over. It usually does. I don't know why. I copied it from last semester, and it didn't transfer. Who knows?
So we're taking out 9 and
13.
12 so
12.
far.
Yeah,
12. Yeah. Let me just look at 13 quickly. This one too. It's just like the last one. Okay, it's just like 12. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to do this one. So you go. You get 12. It's 12 problems. I didn't think it was 15. It said 15 at the top. Have you noticed earlier? It's actually usually it's between 10 and 15. Total.
So 9, 12, and 13.
Yes.
And
after this, we just have one more. So.
You're not going to replace them?
No.
Okay.
I could. You want me to?
That's okay.
No.
Cool. This will right now. If you found the last quiz was very quick, if you did it quickly, I don't know, but there are some quizzes where you just have 10 problems. But those problems are like this. They're very tedious calculations. They're not difficult. It's just as tedious and time consuming. You do the same calculation over and over, like all the way down. It's the same process. So anyway, let's take a look at what's going on. Now here's a good example, perfect example of a problem where you have to sift through and see what's important and what's not important. This is one of those. In 2008, what does it stand for?
New York Fire Department.
Fire Department of New York, I suppose. New York City Fire Department. Why isn't it NYCF? I don't know. Anyway. Had 239 fires. 239 fires. Now look down in an explanation and notice, firehouses, excuse me. Notice, do you see the 239 anywhere?
No.
No. This is supposed to teach you a lesson. You don't assume that you use every number in every problem. Just certain ones. So in your problem, what are you going to do? You're going to get the same scenario. You won't use that number. It's not going to be 239. It's going to be some other number. Or it might be the same because you don't need it. Okay? With 11,293 full-time uniformed firefighters. Do you see that down here anywhere? No, you don't use that either. Okay? During 2008, they responded to a total of 473,353 incidents. Now, total, we usually think it's synonymous with equals, with the equal sign, right? Do we use that anywhere down here? No. Not a single number yet. We have to keep going all the way to the end of the problem. That happens in some problems. The top 8 engine companies. Now this, take a look. 8. Look, it's not even written as a number. Why? Because numbers less than 10 you write as words. Isn't that correct? Or that school? Or is it 10 and less or something? So 8, if you look down here, what's happening? We're going to use that 8. Actually, I just noticed something. Never mind. Scratch that. Here's where the 8 is. That's the 8 we use. I just noticed it. Caught it. So whatever you wrote down, just erase it. Let's keep on reading. The top 8 engine companies respond to an average of 5,272 calls. Do you see that anywhere down here? No, you don't use it. Okay, engine 93, that's just the number of the engine. We have different numbers, engine number 1, engine number 2. Okay. Had a total of 45 calls. A total, which means equals, of 45 calls. Do we use 45?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Equals 45. So you don't use anything until you get down to where? The last 2 sentences. In one 24-hour shift, they respond to 8 times, there's your multiplication, 8 times as many medical emergencies as they did structural fires. Can you imagine that in one night? Anyway, take a look at the problem down here. Now the variable is the same. It's always the same in every problem. One of them is represented by what? Medical emergencies, and one is represented by structural fires. And they had 8 times as many medical emergencies. So here's the relationship. Now this is written vertically, right? Make sure you're reading this correctly. 8x, goes with this, x goes with this, and then we move over reading it vertically. 8x plus x equals 45. You write it horizontally here. Now it's very simple to solve. You combine like terms, and then you solve for the unknown, which I think you know how to do by now, right? It's like a pretty smart class, either smart, quiet, or bashful, or just doesn't care. One of the 4. I guess I'll find out with the grades. By the 95%, by the 95% average, it looks like you just know what you're doing. You're probably bored.
You must have been thinking the same thing.
I'm required to go over all this stuff.
It's just been a long week, and it's only Wednesday.
Any questions on this one? I didn't go through all the way and explain the same way, but you see how, I've done that several times. I don't want you to get too bored. Okay. No, that one's going to. That's just like the other ones. That's just like 12 and 13. Okay, so you can have a total of what, 11 problems?
Yeah,
it's 9, 12, 13, and 15. That's 4, right? So you should have 11 total problems. This is not going to be a long quiz for you. Some of them are going to be longer, though. Okay, so you have short ones, you have long ones. One that can take a few hours, and it'll take maybe an hour. Okay. So any questions about anything before we go? What time is it? 5:02. Any questions about anything? So you know what to do if you have a problem? Yes. And tell me what number. You got to give me the number.